Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 16th of July. And, well, as we were talking about, even though these candle ranges seem small, the range intraday is still pretty decent. And with what we were looking at from a reading standpoint, ABM yellow, reasonable target range. And, of course, every time we hit it there, we've been bouncing back. So nothing shocking there. Slight improvement from the MBI white level here. Not enough to signal anything drastic to negative side. Cyan has been above on the DOC, which, again, flat weakness, which is kind of what we're seeing. We've also had that soft, but you've had a reset now of short-term buyers and just holding on. We've been in this rising shakeout here of gold, and while that's taking place, usually you get at least a support within the market, and that's pretty much exactly what has been taking place. Just a little bit of rotation going on, and that causes some fluctuations, but it's in that fluctuation that you get that nice added volatility, particularly at a peak. Everyone gets concerned. From a NASDAQ standpoint, you can see we're getting closer to that threshold where you can see more activity from an MBI white as it approaches that 10 level and even nears the red line across above there where you already have magenta below yellow. Certainly could see a bit more exacerbated weakness, but we've been riding above the 76% Morganacci line for quite some time now, and it hasn't ended yet. So, but as volatility increases, when you get past certain standard deviations, at some point you could trigger sell programs that could activate a little bit more. So it's just something to pay attention to. Like I said a week plus ago, it's going to take some time when you see those readings from a daily. Gold continuing just a slight move, but going to hit resistance here at that 50% point. But again, well above the 33 with the magenta and yellow, and that signals that still going to hold on to its continued space. Euro is still in a soft spot at this particular stage, and well, still even outside of its typical range, which would be under that 117 level, so it has more room. Well, Bitcoin, of course, we've been talking about this since the 64,000 level, the daily chart, where we were suggesting that it was going to be weakness, and every time we've come back to that 34, we've hit resistance, and it's been harder and harder for it to get back to it each time it tries. And it's been doing it quite a few times, but it gets significant selling interest right at that level. So this was all those people that were told to buy the dip at 55, 50, 45, 40, 39, and then we got down to 34, and then of course, the dip down into the 32 plus range, so you can say that forever when stocks are, or even in this case, the crypto going down, just keep buying the dip. Well, that works to a certain point until you run out of resources. But here we've been able to see the ups and pullbacks rather easily. Been no shock at all with the crypto space, even if it goes to Ethereum versus the dollar here in this setup, dipping below that 2K, and we kind of expected it to revisit that 0% line and getting close to doing that. So all of that's really fitting comfortably within the expectations, and this was the whole point of some of the bigger players moving into the space as far as offering trading and exchange on it, because it allowed them the opportunity to have access to other clients' coins and things like that, which gives them then the power to short against it using the futures markets, and that's exactly kind of the pressure. We knew that was going to take place once Bitcoin was offered on futures, and it made a huge difference, and everyone thought, them jumping into that space meant that it was, they were excited and going to buy, and that was just a fallacy of thinking. It just meant that they could control it better. But from a Ethereum standpoint, a bit more stable than Bitcoin from at least a trading perspective. I mean, the ranges are much smaller, and therefore a bit more plausible from a use standpoint, because when you have a bit more stability, that certainly is more enticing than volatile swings that gamblers, I would call them, like to trade when they're just betting on something going up, up, and up. sort of like betting on black in perpetuity on the roulette wheel, and trend's going to stay a certain way until it changes. But likewise, when it's going the other direction, it stays in that until something else changes. From an intraday standpoint, we started off with some weakness, caught a little bit of support, but in general was fairly soft, but still pretty decent from a range standpoint. And every time we started to break down with the white MBIs movement, you have two different cases here. This one where you dip below the 33 with the magenta in that. It was a matter of weight moving above, signal there, came to the 0%. Caught a little bit of a buy, but it was doing so within the white riding above, and so it's just a matter of waiting. You wait one more until the steel crosses below, but it was literally here the rejection of cyan to green, which is something that we look at for a regular basis, and that led to new lows, and then we broke below previous algo level, and then found support on that one, and that drove it all the way back up to 100%. So rides from 100% to 0%, back up to 100%. In this case, back to 50, right along the algo level, and it's caught some support right there, and holding on in that particular case right now. Also looking at, we had a couple of positive extremes right in the middle range, but they were so close to that 43 area that not terribly significant difference, but that's what I'd be looking for, is the ranges between this 43.77 range and 43.43. Typically below that 43.43, I think that it's going to get much more interesting under this current setup right now. Not particularly looking at that, but we could see a little softening here at the end of the week from the volatility standpoint, and probably begin to resume again as we go into the following week. That should start to make things a bit more interesting. Not that they haven't been. As always, though, I will be posting details on the Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.